listen. That moment, right there, when the piano notes stopped. I can feel you shift in your seats, waiting for something, anything, to happen. But stay with it, because that is not emptiness. Music composers tell as much of the story in the pauses as in the music notes themselves. We think of music as made of sound, notes, phrases, melodies, but real music, real meaning, is shaped by silence, by the space between notes, by what's held back, what's left unsaid. That piece I just played, Rimsky-Korsakov told the story of Scheherazade as much in the silences between notes as in the music itself. Composers write in silence to give us space, to reflect on what we just heard, to prepare for the shift to a new movement, to imagine the possibilities. Music taught me that. Silence speaks. Sometimes it asks questions, sometimes it demands action, and sometimes it asks us to simply listen. I didn't always know that. There was a time in my life when silence was not chosen. It arrived all at once, without warning. When I was in high school, my hometown was torn apart by one of the deadliest mass shootings in US history. I remember the sirens, the screams, the incessant ring of the emergency alert on my phone. And then, silence. Not peace, not calm, a hollow, deafening silence where words failed and even breathing felt too loud. Overnight, my beautiful city, usually alive with vibrant crowds and joyful music, collapsed into unbearable quiet. Our voices had been stolen. Silence spoke then. It asked questions no one could answer and demanded action we didn't yet know how to take. That silence stayed with me. It taught me how to listen. In the weeks that followed, we mourned the lives lost in that horrific massacre, and the countless lives in our community changed forever. Nobody knew what to say. I didn't either. But silence calls for a response, so we turned to action, volunteering with our local children's hospitals and emergency departments, helping families, supporting memorials across the city. But even as we tended to physical wounds, words still failed us. I wanted to try to break through the silence, so I turned to the piano. I played at memorials, in churches, in rooms filled with people who couldn't yet bring themselves to cry, or who had cried way too much already. And something unexpected happened. As I played, and my fingers lingered over the final notes, I felt my community lean in together. No one rushed to fill that quiet. In that quiet, we were asked to be present with one another, to breathe, to let our grief breathe. That was my first lesson in healing. Silence is not a mistake. It's intentional. It's where emotion settles, where meaning forms, where action begins. Fast forward to medical school, I learned that lesson again. This time, not at a piano, but as I volunteered each year at the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit at Texas Tech. Now, if you've ever been to a hospital, you might be thinking, it's never quiet. Monitors beep, ventilators sigh, machines hum in constant conversation. And yet, shadowing at the PICU, the most powerful moments were not loud. They happened in silence. There's one patient that I will never forget. A little girl, barely 6 months old, born prematurely. Even after multiple surgeries, a tracheostomy, an NG tube, every intervention that medicine could offer, the baby's condition did not improve. She couldn't breathe on her own. I watched medicine move like music, fast, complex, hopeful. I learned so much listening to the internal rhythm of clinical decisions, the fast tempo guided by labs and imaging, punctuated by vital signs and hope. For a long time, the music kept going. But over time, the tempo slowed, and eventually, it stopped. I remember her mother never once asked about survival rates. She asked only one question: is my baby in pain? And then she went quiet. That silence told us everything. No more questions, no more interventions. In medicine, we're trained to act, make confident decisions, interpret labs, adjust ventilator settings. But no lecture prepares you for the tremor in a parent's hands as they sign the papers. DNR, do not resuscitate. The doctors had listened to the data, they'd listened to the silence, but now it was time to respond. Silence spoke again. It was asking us to stop, to recognize the limits of medicine, to honor the love in front of us. The action didn't disappear. It changed to presence. I stood beside the mother. I held her hand. I simply listened. Later that day, I wrote down everything that I could remember from rounds in the PICU. Not just the facts of the case, but the intangible moments that wouldn't show up on a medical chart. The pause before the attending doctor spoke, the dimming of the lights, the way the mother memorized her daughter's face one last time. I'd learned something that day that medicine doesn't always teach. Silence doesn't mean that the care stopped. It means that sometimes the most ethical decision is to take a step back, to simply listen, be present, and honor our shared humanity. For days after that DNR, any silence on that PICU floor felt unbearable. I wished I could do something, anything, to bring the music back. Then another patient arrived, a 2-year-old with hydrocephalus, admitted to the ICU for monitoring after posterior cranial fossa decompression surgery. For days, the medical team and family hovered over her bedside, listening for every change. Her room was full of sounds, worried whispers, ticking clocks, beeping monitors, until it wasn't. This time, a different kind of silence. The quiet of a child breathing steadily on her own, of swelling easing, of worry leaving her parents' faces. The alarm stayed quiet, not because something was wrong, but because something was finally right. Silence spoke again, but it was saying something else. It wasn't asking us to stop. It was asking us to pay attention, to listen to the early signs of healing that don't announce themselves loudly, for the relief on a parent's face when they realize recovery is actually possible. And suddenly, it made sense. In that ICU, watching one life end and another begin to heal, I understood what medicine and music had been teaching me all along. Listen to everything, especially what's not said. Because patients don't speak only in symptoms. They speak in pauses, in hesitation, in what they can't put into words. We're trained to track heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen saturation. But what if silence is a vital sign too? And yet, we rush past it. We label it as uncomfortable. We reach for noise, notifications, distractions. But the most human moments of our lives, love, loss, grief, fear, often creep in without words. Silence speaks. Sometimes it asks questions without immediate answers. Sometimes it demands action, calls us to step forward, to serve, to care. And sometimes it asks us to do something even harder, to slow down, to stay, to listen. It is in those spaces between where we truly connect. So the next time someone you love pauses before answering, listen. When a room grows quiet in anticipation, listen. When the music stops, in a hospital room, in a conversation, in your own life. Listen. Because that silence is not emptiness. It is communication, it is meaning, and it is asking something of us. I didn't go into medicine because I wanted all the answers. I became a medical student because I wanted to understand people and bring hope in the moments when everything goes quiet. Music taught me that not every phrase resolves. Some notes are meant to linger. Some silences are meant to be honored. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is listen. When silence speaks, when the music stops. Thank you.